Welcome to Trinity Church's bicentennial film. For 200 years, the people of Trinity Episcopal Church, Natchez, Mississippi, have worshiped and ministered in abiding faith in Jesus Christ. We have also been inspired by our beautiful church building, which is the oldest in the Diocese of Mississippi. Come journey with us for 200 years. Enjoy the film.
In the early 1820s, Anglican settlers in the Natchez area were eager to have an Episcopal minister and a church building in which to worship. An article in the Natchez Democrat on February 17, 1884, states that a group of men were dining in 1821 at the home of Stephen Duncan when a discussion arose about an upcoming marriage. The men asked one another, "Why can't we have an Episcopal minister? Why can't we have a church?" Their wishes were soon fulfilled, for at their invitation on March 9, 1822, the Reverend James Pillmore of Maryland, an Oxford University graduate, arrived in Natchez. He became the first rector of Trinity Church on April 9, 1822. He held services elsewhere in Natchez while the present church building was being built. The first worship service was held there in May 1823. The church, which appears in an 1823 oil painting by the naturalist John James Audubon, is a rectangular building by John Muntz and George Williams. It originally had an immense dome top. In the late 1830s, a remodeling by George Reynolds and Mark Breeden resulted in the removal of the dome and the addition of a new roof and a spectacular Greek Revival facade. Much of the remainder of the church retains its original design. Alterations include a raised chancel with recess altar, added in 1883, and stained glass windows installed between 1884 and 1963. The church was the site of the organizational meeting of the Episcopal Diocese of Mississippi on June 1826. Trinity was one of 4 original parishes in the diocese, with the others being Christ Church, Church Hill, founded in 1820, St. Paul's Church, Woodville, 1823, and St. John's Church, now St. James, Port Gibson, 1826. Since 1827, Trinity has hosted dozens of other diocesan conventions, now called councils, including the very important convention in May 1849. At that convention, the Reverend William Mercer Green of North Carolina was elected the first bishop of the Diocese of Mississippi. He arrived in Natchez in January 1850 and assumed the duties of rector of the Trinity Church on February 24, 1850. He was consecrated bishop in St. Andrew's Church, Jackson. That year, there were 18 churches in the diocese, with a total of 506 members, 117 of whom were members of Trinity Church. For all of 1850 and most of 1851, Bishop Green lived in Natchez and was both bishop and rector. In September 1851, the bishop, his family, and his office moved to Jackson, Mississippi. A true missionary, Bishop Green helped the diocese grow so that by 1860, there were 44 churches with 1,356 communicants, of which 162 were blacks. During the Civil War, Trinity Church suffered greatly, along with the rest of the country. Members went to war and many lost their lives, while those at home were also deeply affected. The church endured major financial troubles and also had important members strongly disagreeing about the war. For instance, Trinity member Vorina Howell, who married Jefferson Davis in 1845, became the First Lady of the Confederate States of America. Stephen Duncan, who helped found Trinity Church and in 1860 was one of the wealthiest men in America, opposed secession from the Union. In 1863, Duncan moved from Natchez to New York City, never to return. After the Civil War, in April 1866, the Reverend Charles B. Dana, became rector. He found the financial condition of the parish greatly depressed. However, by the time of his death in 1873, the church was beginning to rebound. That year, the Reverend Alexander Marks of New Orleans was elected to lead Trinity Church. According to Charles Steaton Roth's 100 Years with Old Trinity Church, published in 1922, Mr. Marks, in a very short time, had the whole congregation busily at work. 3 major physical accomplishments were inspired by Mr. Marks. First, the interior of the church was transformed, Mr. Steaton Roth wrote. Second was the addition in 1883 of a raised chancel, a recess altar, and the Ascension stained glass window, all consecrated at a major church event on February 17, 1884, by the Right Reverend Hugh Miller Thompson. And the third was the addition of a 2-story brick education building in 1887 to 1888. On February 20th, 1884, the Trinity Vestry formally thanked Stephen Duncan Jr. for funding the Ascension window, and on April 29, 1888, the vestry delivered to Mr. Duncan a letter of thanks for his magnificent gifts to the church in the parish building and the chancel. The letter stated, "This has been adopted since his gifts had become known, and he could not remain incognito any longer." In 1883, the Reverend Hugh Miller Thompson was consecrated bishop and elected assistant bishop of Mississippi. His mission was especially to assist Bishop Green, who was serving both as Bishop of Mississippi and Chancellor of the University of the South, Sewanee, Tennessee. One of Bishop Thompson's priority was care for the spiritual welfare of black people and the building up of a black priesthood and laity, according to an 1883 resolution drawn at a council of clergy and lay delegates. More than half of living Mississippians are black people, Bishop Thompson said at the 1884 council. There is no color line in the church, he said. As a result of the bishop's leadership, new churches for blacks in the diocese were organized. One was Trinity Chapel, established with the help of Trinity Church. According to the Episcopal Church in Mississippi, 1793 to 1992, the chapel opened in 1889 with a black priest. In 1895, the Reverend George Gilbert Middleton reported 52 communicants. Through ensuing years, the chapel had fluctuations in membership and was finally closed in 1925, after which time some members worshipped at Trinity Church. Between 1895 and 1963, 10 additional ecclesiastical stained glass windows were placed in the nave, given to the glory of God and in memory or in thanksgiving of loved ones. All 11 ecclesiastical windows welcome viewers into a worship space like no other in the state of Mississippi, said Kathleen Bond, author of Trinity's Stained Glass Windows in Welcome to the Trinity Table, celebrating 200 years. Their size, brilliant colors, and exquisite craftsmanship command attention and impart a spiritual experience of awe, she said. God's light shines through, animating their eternal messages. Repairs for the parish building in 1907 include funds for a covered and closed passageway from that structure to the church. While the Reverend Joseph Keenley was rector from 1914 to 1946, major calamity ensued not once but twice in the form of 2 horrific world wars. More than 60 men from Trinity fought in World War I. During World War II, more than 100 of Trinity's male and female parishioners served valiantly. In both wars, many gave their lives. Between the world wars, at the annual convention in 1929, Mr. Keenley encouraged all strong churches in the diocese to help churches in need. Soon thereafter, Trinity Church, a strong parish, and Christ Church, by then a small congregation, began a long-term relationship. In 2018, the two were named partners in mission by the Right Reverend Brian Sage, with the Reverend Ken Ritter serving as rector of Trinity Church and vicar of Christ Church. Trinity Church felt the negative effects of the Great Depression from 1929 to 1933, with deep budget cuts. However, by 1934, the parish's budget was balanced and necessary funds available to renovate the church interior. Following World War II, the Reverend Louis Ovander Thomas became rector, serving from 1946 to 1975. In 1951, the church had 515 members, with 151 in church school. A strong believer in education, Mr. Thomas led a movement to establish Trinity Episcopal School. It began in 1950 with preschoolers, and soon thereafter added higher-level classes. In 1971, the school's first graduation ceremony for 12th graders took place. The school, fully accredited and racially integrated, thrived for decades, winning top academic and athletic awards. Declining area population and economic conditions caused low enrollment and closure in 2018. In 1976, while the Reverend Martin Luther Agnew Jr. was rector, the sesquicentennial of the Diocese of Mississippi and the bicentennial year of the nation were jointly celebrated at Trinity Church at the 149th Annual Council. That year, to honor the two longest-serving rectors of Trinity Church, the Education Building Parish Hall was named Keenly Hall, and the house at 506 Washington Street, bought by the church in 1965, was named Thomas Hall. In 1982, under the leadership of the Reverend Lemuel G. Parks, Jr., Trinity joined three other Natchez churches to establish the Stew Pot, an interfaith endeavor that annually supplies 10,000 free meals per month for the needy. Members of Trinity regularly cook, serve, and deliver hot meals. In 1988 and 1989, Mr. Parks oversaw the expansion and renovation of Keenly Hall, and also strongly supported the Episcopal Young Churchmen, now Episcopal Youth Community, a group of 40 teenagers. In 2000, Trinity Church helped establish the Natchez Habitat for Humanity, a nonprofit housing organization, with Trinity members Stanford Buddy Rain Jr. as board member. By 2019, more than 20 needy families had new housing. Under the leadership of the Reverend Zabron Chip Davis, rector from 1997 until 2009, refurbishing work was accomplished at Christ Episcopal Church in 1998 and 2001, at Thomas Hall in 1999, and at Keenly Hall in 2004. In 2003, Trinity's stained glass windows received ultraviolet protection, and the Lafarge window was repaired. The Reverend Walton Jones, rector from 2011 until 2016, led a major capital funds drive to finance the repair and renovation of the church and Keeling Hall. He helped reestablish Daughters of the King, a national church women's group devoted to prayer, service, and evangelism. In 2015, Father Walton created the first Clause for a Cause, an event that generated the first year more than $20,000, an amount shared with the Episcopal Camp, Bratton Green, and the Pleasant Acre Day School. This street party is now an annual benefit event that helps large numbers of those in need. Soon after arriving in 2017, the Reverend Ken Ritter helped the church establish the Fred L. Callan Memorial Garden between the church and Keenly Hall. The garden honors a devoted member and treasure of the church. In 2019, the vestry, in consultation with the rector, finalized the sale of Trinity School to Cornerstone Church. On February 22, 2020, Bishop Sage and Father Ken led the bicentennial celebration of Christ Church, Church Hill, which attracted a standing room-only crowd of more than 315 people. A national shutdown due to the coronavirus in spring of 2020, resulted in a year with no public worship services. Father Ken, well versed in modern telecommunications, presented services online. Father Ken also spearheaded Trinity's bicentennial celebration with a large committee of volunteers. The celebration began with the launch of a book, Welcome to the Trinity Table, Recollections and Recipes Celebrating 200 Years, 1822 to 2022, in November 2020. Other activities included an oral history project and a short documentary film, both about Trinity, the installation of a Mississippi historical marker in front of the church, indoor and outdoor exhibits, publications, a speaker series, and hosting both diocesan council and a celebratory concert in 2022. Throughout its history, members of the Trinity Church have served the broader church as ordained priests and licensed lay readers, members of the diocesan committees and boards, and diocesan deputies to General Convention. Members have also been public servants and national leaders. In the 19th century, they included Edward Turner, Justice of the Mississippi Supreme Court, Adam L. Bingaman, President of the Senate in Mississippi Legislature and Speaker of the Mississippi House of Representatives, John A. Quitman, Mississippi Governor and United States Congressman, Sergeant Smith Prentice, member of the House of Representatives in the Mississippi Legislature and United States Congressman, and Ayers P. Merrill, United States Minister, resident to Belgium. In the 20th century, leaders included Catherine Grafton Miller, founder of the Natchez Pilgrimage, Grace M.S. McNeil, National President of the Girl Scouts of the United States of America, Marion Smith, President of the Senate in Mississippi Legislature, and Linda Lee Meade, Miss America 1960. The vision statement for Trinity Church sums up the parish's goal. We are one church in mission, inviting, transforming, and reconciling all people to God and neighbor in Natchez and to the ends of the earth.